Hello. Spirit House here. Today, I'll be reading from the Message of the Divine Iliad by Walter Russell, Volume 2, and it's part 1. We're in the Book of Healing. It was three books that were put together from the earlier days that were compiled. So it's this. The part 1 is actually called 3 Books from the Divine Iliad. And although this is the Divine Iliad, Volume 2, these were put together before it was all compiled. So that's why they're called that. And this is the 3rd book. It's called The Book of Healing. And we left off with part 3 of the Book of Healing on my last video. So we're going to start at part 4. I think form. So is my image fashioned in the form of my thinking. I think idea. So is my image fashioned in the form of my idea. I think balance, for I am balance. I think love, for I am love. I think power, for desire in me is power in me. I think truth and law, for I am truth and law. I think balanced form of idea, for in me is naught but rhythmic balance, from which rhythmic balanced form appeareth. My balance is absolute, my rhythm is absolute. So also is my image rhythmic, balanced, and absolute. So likewise is my love absolute. My thinking extendeth idea of my knowing to mirrors of divided light, which giveth imagined form. Let me start this verse over again. My thinking extendeth idea of my knowing to mirrors of divided light, which giveth imagined form to my idea, and reflecteth it back to re-give it to me my regivings. Desire to thus extend is the foundation of my electric universe. My thinking is electric. My electric thinking expresseth my desire to create rhythmic form. I think in rhythmic balanced waves of mirrored light. Mirrored light reflecteth into opposed mirrors of light, centered by rest in me. Reflection of each to each interchanges the givings and re-givings of my thinking from each to each. Interchange of givings repeateth givings by reflected re-givings in rhythmic cycles. In this wise is my universal body born and reborn unto the endless end. It never dieth. It forever repeateth the illusion of living and dying. In this wise all bodies are born from my body. They likewise die not. They forever repeat the record of my thinking in light waves of my thinking. I give naught but love to my creations, and they give back naught but love to me for repeating in endless rhythmic cycles. There is no death nor life in material bodies of my creation. There is naught but interchange of the light of love. For all creating bodies are centered by me, and I am the light of love. Part 5. When man thinketh of body of man alone, denying me in him, then is man's image not man's, not mine and man's. For the pattern of my rhythmic balanced image within man may not be seen by him, nor may the glory of my light be seen in him, nor known by him. When man thinketh me through knowing me, then he is patterned by my image, and I am he. When man so thinketh, then may my balanced rhythmic image be seen in him. Then also may the glory of my light be seen in him and be known by him. When man so thinketh, then is man's balance absolute. If interchange of love and bodies is rhythmically balanced in me, they have my balance and my perfection. Likewise, man's balanced dealings with other men will have my balance and my perfection. If interchange of love and bodies is unbalanced, diverse sicknesses and other ills will consume such bodies until they again find balance in me. Likewise, disaster pursueth men whose dealings with men are unbalanced in me. Behold, all men, the workings of my one law, of rhythmic balanced interchange between all pairs of opposed light-mirrored waves, which constitute my body and its extension in man. Behold the drought and witherings which followed unbalanced interchange between the moistures of heaven and the dryness of desert earth. Behold the stunted tree which dwelleth in the shade of larger trees. Behold the glutton who eateth beyond his measure and suffereth for his unbalanced actions. Behold the bankrupt merchant who giveth little and taketh much, and the paupered nation which seeketh power and wealth by taking all and giving not. Behold the wretched miser, the ulcered, the leprous and cancerous, the loveless greedy ones, and those who quickly anger, hating all and loving naught but self. For I say, the tornadoes of earth springeth from earth's dealings with their heavens, as the tornadoes of man springeth from man's dealings with other men. Consider the lusciousness of vale and forest, which giveth to the heavens equally with heaven's givings to earth. Again I say, love alone ruleth all things of heaven and earth. With love I build my universe, and with love it voideth itself in me, for again reappearing as my universe. Part 6. When I commune with knowing man, in light I command him, even though he knowest all of me as me, to tell no man of me beyond that which he can bear. I limit him, as I do thee, to the comprehension of his day and age, for man cannot bear that knowledge of me which is too far beyond his day and age. Heed thou therefore my commands to thee, as all my messengers of thy older race have heeded them. Counsel each of thine appointed ones in this wise. Say thou these, my words to him, and simply. Thou art anointed with light. Thou art the Son of light. Omniscient thou art. Thou knowest all things. All knowledge hast thou that thy father-mother hath. Omnipotent thou art. All power hast thou that thy father-mother hath. Omnipresent thou art. Thy light reacheth out to the farthermost wave of thy father-mother's cycle, and thou mayest find his stillness at thy will. All presence hast thou that thy father-mother hath. Through thy omnipotent power thou shalt give life to man and take his death for reborning. Through thee shall death be resurrected and flow from thee as life, and neither death nor life shall touch thee in their passing. He whom thou hast made whole shall see a glory in thine eyes and a peace beyond man's understanding. He who would be made whole will see my light in thee and come to me. Fear thou shalt not know, lest pestilence lodge with thee in its passing through thee to its resurrection. Fear is an unbalanced thing apart from me, for I am balance. The toxemia of unbalance is man's only ailment. There is no other ailment. Therefore, give him balance. Fear is not in me. Teach thou that fear cannot be in any man who knoweth me. He who feareth the phantoms of his conjurings may restore his balance and be made whole through knowing me. Comfort thou the fearing man and make him whole through me. Resurrect thou him who is near death and feareth his dying, knowing it is naught but death, and give death back to him as life, yea, as eternal life. See thou the light of ecstasy in his closing eyes as thou openest doors to life for him who expecteth death. Teach him that there is no death, that there is naught but life, for even while sleeping in my arms as death, they cradle him anew as life. For I am the God of love. Anoint thou him with my love bestowed on him through thee. Anoint thou him with light. Take thou his separateness away from him, and give him to me as me. Verily I say to him who knoweth me in him, what I do thou shalt do, even as I. Behold, I give thee power over death, that death may never be. Behold, I give thee power to bestow life and immortality. I give thee power to make well the sick, to make blind eyes see, to restore balance to the unbalanced, to make inner eyes see the light of me, and inner ears to hear my harmonies. And when thy anointed ones shall resurrect the dead to life in me, bid them cast out all mourners from the houses of the dead, and bring therein singers of hosannas, to transform them into temples of the living resurrected in me. Part 7. As thou knowest me, make man to know me. Multiply thou his power through awareness of me. Make him to know my light, my omnipresence, my omnipotence, and my omniscience. Teach thou him to know that what I am, he is. Thy task is to unify mankind through his knowing. Man's day of cosmic knowing is now here. Man can be unified only through cosmic knowing. Man's knowing is his power. He cannot think beyond his knowing. He who would heal the sick must know me in him and have my omnipotent power. Beyond his knowing of the light, he cannot extend my power nor my balance to those who have lost their equilibrium in me through diverse fears and unbalanced actions. Man is not now so new as man of yesterday, who comprehended not my electric wave universe of dual light, which recordeth my thinking by the motion of matter. My anointed messengers of yesterday, who knew the light of me in them, bade man to have faith and belief in me, for mankind could not then comprehend nor know me. He who would heal man of today shall not command any one to dependence upon faith or belief in what he saith or doeth, even upon me, unsupplemented by his knowing. Mine anointed, illumined ones must inspire him whom he would heal to know me in him, and comprehend the workings of my laws, which he controlleth even as I. Faith and belief delivereth man from fears and other ills, without his comprehending why. It giveth him balance for normal growth of body, even as the seed in the field groweth normally, without faith or belief. The seed knoweth not why it groweth, nor doth it resist the working of my law through will of its own. Faith and belief relaxeth the will of man to his will of me, his Creator. When man thus voideth his own will, and acteth not his own knowing through his own will as co-creator with me, he thus placeth his ills within the workings of my inevitable law, which obeyeth my will. No longer resisting my will by opposing it with his own, he thus removeth the cause of his ills which sprang from unbalance and inharmony with me. When man thus findeth rest in me, he findeth balance which restoreth his body. For I am rest. He who cometh to me to find rest in me findeth rhythmic balanced interchange in every cell of him. He who thus reneweth his body through balancing the waves of dual light which compriseth his body is like unto one reborn. Unlike the lilies of the field, man hath consciousness, intelligence, and will to act for the fulfillment of his desires. The will of thinking man maketh him to have unnatural desires which instinctively control extensions of my body have not. Instinctively controlled animals killeth for replenishment of bodies. Man killeth for greed, with avarice, or for vengeance. Nations of men killeth whole nations for the possessions of nations. Unthinking animals, controlled through instinct by me, know not of sin nor evil, nor good nor bad, nor have they the worryings of man. The flowers of the field taketh no heed for the morrow, for the workings of my law fulfilleth their natural desires without having the worryings of man. He whose dependence is upon faith and belief alone placeth himself on the level of the flowers of the field by voiding his own will. In this wise he findeth healing, like unto the lion who breaketh his leg and resteth it for my healing. As man unfoldeth into greater knowing, his creations are his and mine, co-creators, as one. When man knoweth my power, he hath my power. He needeth not to become as the flowers of the field, which know not my power, they take through me. When man knoweth my balance and comprehendeth its workings in all creating things, he may extendeth his knowing to others to void the ills which ariseth from unbalance in them. He who thus extendeth his knowing of my light to others must himself be illumined in my light while thus extending it. He must rise above his sensing and be me in his knowing. For verily I say, the works of inspired man co-creating with me endureth forever, but the works of him who worketh alone, even though he knoweth me, shall be as writings upon ocean's sands. Wherefore I say, he who would heal the sick by anointing him with the light of all knowing must himself have anointing of my light in him, even as the genius goeth to greater genius for inspiration and not to his pupil. Furthermore, I command him who would extend my light to dwellers in the dark, or to unbalanced ones whose ills he would heal, that he useth not the cloak of assumed piety to aid his knowing, nor to veil his unknowing. For such show of piety suppresseth inner joyousness in man, which leadeth to the ecstasy of my kingdom of heaven. He who is made whole by finding balance in my light findeth an inner joyousness which immunizes him from toxins and destructive things which attack fearing man. Inner joyousness is the forerunner of the ecstasy which cometh alone to the reverent inspired ones who have found my all-knowing. Part 8. The time hath come in man's unfolding when he must henceforth rise above his sensing. He must know that he is wholly mind, and that his mind and mine are one. He must know that his body and mine are likewise one, but they existeth not. Body is but the sense tool of mind to act the will of mind. Body hath no existence. It is but motion, and motion existeth not. Senses have no existence. They are but waves of dual light. Mind knoweth. Mind knowing is the being, the person. Mind desireth. Desire is the creator within mind. Desire is the soul, the will of the being of mind. Mind thinketh. Thinking is the imaginer which separateth the idea of knowing mind into the appearance of many ideas and giveth them form. Thinking is electric. My body is electric. My electric body is an ever-moving record of my ever-changing thinking. Electric thinking obeyeth the creative imaginer. The divideth imagined idea in the light of the one being into the appearance of many imagined ideas, and giveth them imagined forms as of many beings. Let me repeat that because I kind of stumbled on that paragraph. Electric thinking obeyeth the creative imaginer, and divideth imagined idea in the light of the one being into the appearance of many imagined ideas, and giveth them imagined forms as of many beings. All forms thus electrically miraged into the appearance of existence are made in my image, for all are imaged by my thinking. All creating forms are but spectrum waves of the dual light of my electric thinking. Forms are illusions produced by the motion of light waves. Light waves springeth from imagined extension of my thinking. Waves of the dual light of my thinking are not my light, nor are they me. They extendeth from me to manifest my knowing and my power, as the lever extendeth from the fulcrum to manifest the power which is in the fulcrum. But the lever is not the fulcrum, nor is the dual light of electric thinking me. Electric waves of motion, which are my body, are electrically sensed with an awareness of each other. Senses are wave mirrors, which reflect their ever-changing condition to every other wave in my whole universal body and all of its extensions. Each wave of each man's body is electrically sensed with an awareness of every other wave in man's body. Senses are mirrors which intercommunicate with each other by reflecting their light into and through each other. Thus are all of my creations reflections of me and of each other. Man calleth the reflected interchange between the senses an electric current. Mankind hath mistaken the sensing of bodies for thinking and even for knowing. Bodies know not, nor can they think. Bodies can but be aware of motion and of condition, for they are but varied conditions of motion. The senses, being electric, cannot react to aught but motion. Senses cannot react to stillness or balance which is in me. They react to unbalance alone. The consciousness of man telleth him if he standeth in balance, but the senses telleth him not until he loseth his balance. Likewise man's senses telleth his senses if he hungereth, or is in discomfort or in pain, but they are as though they were not when man restoreth balance from these unbalanced conditions. For long ages man hath thought of his body as his self, his being. Likewise he hath thought of the interchange between the senses of his body as thoughts of his knowing. He hath thought of himself as borning, living, and dying in my changing thought universe of image, time, and space, not knowing that his body alone borneth, ageth, and dieth. He still thinketh of himself as one of many disunited beings, each one separate and apart from each other, and from all other beings. Likewise he confuseth senses of body with consciousness of mind. He thinketh of his mind as his own, disunited from all other minds, a separate thing apart. Man's ages of dependence upon his senses must be replaced by dependence upon his mind and mine. He seeth and feeleth his body, not knowing that his body is also mine. He relieth upon it as reality. Henceforth he must know that reality is his mind and mine, which he can in no wise see or feel. Part 9. Man's early eons of living for sensing alone, with but little thinking and lesser knowing, bred fear, selfishness, and greed in his body. Body needs alone bred these qualities, for mind hath them not. Man's struggle for survival of his body likewise bred sensations and emotions which alone are of the body, not of the mind, nor even of the thinking of mind. When man hungereth, it is man's body which hungereth, not man. His senses telleth his entire body that it hungereth. Likewise his senses telleth his senses of pain, or heat, or cold, or dangers which he meeteth with courage or fear or other reactions of the senses. From body desires for possessions springeth craftiness, cunning, fairness, generosity, cheating, cruelty, ingenuity, and divers other pairs of opposed unbalanced qualities which affect his thinking. Likewise, desire for companionship and diverse human relationships giveth rise to countless other reactions of the senses, which toucheth the spirit of man to uplift him, or toucheth the senses alone to degrade him in the measure of his thinking. For verily man maketh his own body in the image of his thinking when he thinketh alone. When he thinketh my knowing with me, then is his image also mine. Man likewise maketh his own ills in his own unbalanced image, when thinking alone without me. For all ills are unbalanced things, and unbalance is not in me. When thinking my knowing with me, he finds balance in me to void his pairs of opposites of his unbalanced thinking, and is made whole by finding rest in me. He who would be made whole, or who would heal others, must himself think my knowing with me. My balance must be in him ere he extendeth its rest to others. He must know that pairs of opposed sensations and emotions are unbalanced conditions from which his good health or his ills springeth in the patterns of his thinking. At his will, he may void them both in the oneness from which they both sprang. All idea of my thinking is divided into pairs of opposite unbalanced conditions. Male sex and female are opposite unbalanced conditions of the one idea of man. These two opposed conditions void each other by finding rest from motion in each other. Opposite unbalanced conditions are as a lever in motion swinging from its still fulcrum. In the fulcrum is the one unchanging condition of balance from which the two changing unbalanced conditions extend. So long as the lever swingeth in motion, its two opposites are unbalanced. Sorry about that. Excuse me. I'm just having trouble separating the pages. Okay. When the swinging of the lever ceaseth, the lever is balanced in the stillness of its fulcrum. Anger and kindness and patience and impatience are pairs of opposite unbalanced emotions, divided as pairs of one idea which affecteth the pattern of man's body for good or ill. Good and bad, love and hate, and other pairs of opposed emotions appeareth as man beginneth to know me in him. The idea of sin and fear of punishment for sin, and wickedness and evil followeth his further unfolding. Man becometh the image of the idea he thinketh. Verily I say, man createth these unbalanced ideas by thinking alone without me, for they are unbalanced things, and I am balance. Behold in me the still fulcrum of my changing universe. In me is neither good nor evil, fear nor anger, sympathy nor sorrow, sin nor virtue. In me is naught but the ecstasy of love, fulcrum of all thinking and all emotion. Naught else existeth. These words of my father mother's knowing I have translated true, while in the light of all knowing upon the mountaintop. And that is the end of Book 3, which was the Book of Healing. And in my next video, we'll read Part 2 of Volume 2 of the Divine Iliad. And it is titled 5 Lectures. So that is what we will start out reading in the next video.